goodness. I just finished talking to Dr. Boster, and you got to listen to this conversation where we actually decided today we will start revolutionizing MS care. Got to watch it to see what happens.
Again, no worries.
But maybe at some point we can actually do a conversation about like what happens on the back end between, the doctor's brain going through a day, how we perceive a clinic day, a patient visit.
Well, just to touch on that, because I do think it's really, really relevant. And what a unique experience that I get to talk to you about that, because you have seen it from multiple different vantage points, right? Just beautiful. It's the idea that whereas I'm coming into my work day and let's say I have 20 patients on my schedule that I'm going to be seeing that day. And so when that person comes in for a 45-minute visit or for half an hour visit, it's a half an hour of my day. And I may be transparently thinking about what I have to do after work, or I may be thinking, okay, well, just a couple more patients, then I'm finished. And I may have that kind of business mindset. But for the human being and for their family, they took off work. They've been waiting 6 months. They have an MRI. It's a very, very anxiety provoking, and it's a big event. And so there's almost intrinsic to the system is a disconnect between the vantage point and perspective of the clinician delivering care and the human being receiving the care. And I just feel like we should always remember that the widget is somebody's mom. And this is arguably one of the more important days in their year. Even though to us, we're frustrated because they showed up a couple minutes late and they were busy getting roomed and we're behind in our visit. And we need to check ourselves. We need to put that at the door so that we can really engage. At least that's my opinion.
And it's easy to get lost in the details, right? When I would go through seeing like 15, 20 patients in a day, you're trying to keep track, stay on time, don't forget anything, to write in your notes. But one thing that I was really trying to incorporate was mindfulness.
Yes.
So I had a routine of taking 3 big breaths between one patient and the next to sort of put the last person back, we gave them their space. And now I'm present for the next person.
Allow me to challenge you, because I think it would be cooler if you did that when you started the clinic visit. Mm-hmm. So, because oftentimes it's been my experience, particularly in the era of telemedicine, the human being is taking off their hat and they're running to I'm sorry, doctor, I'm late, and they're anxious and stressed out, and I'm anxious and stressed out. So it might be even more impactful and I'm going to try that tomorrow. If when we start,
that's a challenge. I'm up for it.
All right. Pinky promise me. We'll both do it. All right. And then we'll start the visit by saying, okay, let's spend a moment in the present moment together and just breathe together for a minute. I mean, that sounds cool. Like that sounds like because very often, let's be honest, the first 5 sentences, nobody's listening. I'm not listening because I'm like trying to log on and like, and they're trying to get themselves sorted and stuff. It's such an important point you bring up of this difference in the perspective that we come together. It's part of the reason that I made a YouTube channel relates to this, actually, because I may tell you something that I think is going to be really important. Like this is going to be the thing. And you're not, as a patient sitting in my office, ready to receive it.
Right.
But this is the only time I'm going to tell you, right? And if we aren't aligned, you might miss the message. So I started to make these YouTube videos like a long time, 2015, I guess, because that way I can encourage you to listen to me say it at your convenience at 3 o'clock in the morning in your bathrobe, or while you're waiting for your kid to finish up track practice in your car on your phone. And that might be when it's good for you to hear it.
Right.
And I think that's relevant because as an MS neurologist, as a non-proceduralist, I help people by request. Like I ask them to do stuff like not smoke or to go for a walk after dinner or to put their phone down. Those are requests. I mean, even I'll say, here, take this pill, please. And if they don't understand why, they probably won't. I mean,
but the why is so important.
Yeah. But if I can explain to them why, they'll do my job for me. I mean,
Yeah, and the reality is like you don't have enough time in a 30, 45-minute visit to like do their MRI, check in on their meds, get a history, and then say, let's talk about quitting smoking. This is
or
why.
like, hey, how's the bedroom? I mean, that ends up falling by the wayside, and it's the most important thing,
Yes.
And so what I end up doing is I end up having multiple visits. I may see somebody with a great frequency, because we say, okay, well, we didn't get to the sexual dysfunction, but that's important quality of life. So how about next week, and then we'll just pick up. But it's a tricky thing, and I think a complex condition like MS, if I see 15 people in a given day, I might see 15 different chief complaints, 15 different things. And we have to meet someone where they are.
For sure. So I love that you do the videos. It's so important for people to get the information in bite-sized pieces because most patients, I myself included, maybe retain 10, 20% of what was said in a given clinic visit. And we were talking about how like it could be very anxiety provoking showing up to have your MRI reviewed. You're just kind of like, please, no new lesions, right?
Yeah.
So being able to access this information on your own time is really valuable, and you can personalize it to yourself. Like nobody could ask you all those questions, right? As on a one-on-one encounter.
Yeah.
So I think you've done something really valuable for the MS community. And I think of you as a bridge between neurology and my world, which is integrative functional medicine, which is, the use of non-pharmaceutical therapies. I got really interested in that after my own diagnosis of MS, because I wanted to know what else can I do beyond the recommendations of my neurologist. And so it's so special that you bridge that gap and you acknowledge that there are other tools out there beyond DMTs. Because would you say that DMTs are enough?
Never. No, it's DMT by itself. You will fail. Unfortunately, it's not adequate. And I've evolved into my current style of practice because of a lack of ego. I'm not proud. I just want to help someone live their very best life despite having MS. And what I discovered was I can move the needle if I put them on the most effective DMT they're comfortable taking, but that's wholly inadequate. And so someone who takes their medicine and smokes a pack a day and eats only McDonald's and doesn't move away from their computer terminal is not being set up for success. I am setting them up for failure by not addressing the other aspects of their life. I preach that I want the families I work with to be 5 for 5 in their fight against MS. And when I say being 5 for 5, those are 5 things that I want them to do every day. Like that's how we're going to win. And I'll go through them with you. But what I'll point out is only one of the 5 is an allopathic medicine, right? So the first one is to exercise as part of your lifestyle. And I don't need to preach to you about the value of exercising or the complexity of trying to be successful exercising with MS. So it's a constant reevaluation, and if your plan is to do tantric sex a half an hour a day and then your partner won't participate, you have to find a different, exercise regimen. Okay, I'll help you.
For a different partner.
So then number 2 is to not smoke things, because smoking speeds up MS. And in reality, that's an entrant into a discussion about cardiovascular risk factors. And a lot of that is a commitment to a healthy, heart-healthy lifestyle. And then the third thing is to supplement low levels of vitamin D, which is really an entrant into clean, smart eating. And I'm a really, really big proponent that what you put in your mouth has a massive impact on your health. And so I think, in the 70s.
That's not how a lot of neurologists think. There are neurologists who think that nutrition has nothing to do with MS outcomes.
But respectfully, they're full of shit. Like they're wrong. Excuse my language. That's false. And I guess as I approach 50, I don't have time to waste on those men and women because I just want to help my families live their best life. And I learned a long time ago, if I ignore nutrition, I fail you. Like I don't do a good job, like simply put. And it only takes a month of avoiding processed foods to realize that it's a complete game changer for your entire life.
For sure.
Like, it's amazing. And every single time it happens, I just laugh because they're like, Doc, it's true. I'm like, I told you that, So The next thing that we talk about is mindfulness. And so, as you're very well aware, in our Western culture, we are trained to be anything but mindful. Like, if you can eat a cheeseburger and talk on the cell phone and drive, you are a big winner, because you arrived at the meeting, finished the meeting, and ate your lunch all at the same time. Good job.
Yeah.
And the
You get
reality,
rewarded for that behavior.
absolutely you do.
Accomplish so much.
You're promoted because of your efficiency. And yet what it does is it makes us more and more depressed, more and more isolated, more and more alone. It's actually a terrible thing. And so what I found is, if I can talk you into doing 5 minutes of a mindful activity daily, it's a game changer. It's a massive game changer. And it doesn't need to be every time you're behind the wheel or with every meal or, for hours a day. I've inserted, I do a mindful meditation at the end of every one of my morning showers, 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I will not miss a shower because I look forward to it. It changes my day. I get so excited about the end of my shower when I get to breathe, and it's empowering and energizing. And so I really want families to do that. And then the fifth thing, 5-5, is to take the most effective MS medicine they're comfortable with and make sure it's working.
Yeah.
So I share that with you because 4 of those 5 things have nothing to do with allopathic medicine unless you think about it correctly, right? Like, unless you think about the goals, the oath that we took. And then in my mind, it's just like you said, it's another tool to help a family become more successful.
Yeah. And, it just still boggles my mind that we are not pushing on this with all of our MS patients. Like, this should be the standard of care. Like you said, I always tell my patients, like, I would not be doing you any good if I didn't talk to you about all these things. Yeah. Whether you want to do it or not is a different story, but we have to have the conversation.
It is an elephant in the room. I remember, I'll share just a really quick tidbit. When I was a med student doing pediatrics, I went in to see a patient and I took a history and I did an exam. I was very proud of myself, and I had my little notes, and I came back to the attending and I presented the case to the attending, and he said, "Okay, anything else?" And I said, "No." He goes, "You missed the point." And I said, "What's wrong?" It was a well-child checkup. There was nothing wrong, except she had a BMI of 40. She was morbidly obese, and I completely ignored it. Like, I didn't bring it up in the discussion. And he went in the room, and the parents were obese. And when we started to talk about their concepts of nutrition and health, it became very obvious very quickly that we could help this young lady the most by teaching her parents about some nutritional tenets.
And not by writing a perfect note, because
no.
and all of that,
yeah.
right?
and I remember leaving the room going, I failed that patient. I did not do a good job, because I was all like, well, she's on her medicine and her exam, she did this. And it really speaks to it speaks to a flaw, I feel like, in the way that we're trained. And I think that's where the problem lies. I think that doctors, generally speaking, and I'm going to make a gross generality, are large, fragile egos. And when we finish med school, we think that we're given a scepter and a crown, and we know all the things that we all need to know. We don't need to learn anything else. And then we start to deliver care the way that our mentors taught us forever. And I think when a doctor doesn't know something, I think that, unfortunately, the knee-jerk reaction is to ignore it, not to lean in.
Ego is a dangerous thing.
It's a hugely dangerous thing.
I'll tell you, in the operating room, when I used to be an anesthesiologist, like, you would see scenarios where you're like, this is dangerous. We're getting into dangerous territory. And anesthesiologists generally have zero ego.
Yeah.
People on the other side have a little bit more than us. And I think that if you can disarm yourself and admit that you're making a mistake or you don't know something, it really makes a difference. And patients will never fault you for that. They're always appreciative.
Spot on. I'm a big believer in communication, and it's my opinion that if I'm open and honest, then it's not even just a therapeutic alliance or a risk of being sued. It's genuine. I take this ride with you. So if you have to step away from your job, I grieve, and I grieve with you. We grieve together. But when we're done grieving, then we have to find another job, right? Like, and I think that's to be transparent. I don't know how else to be. Like, that's, I have to live with myself at night, and I care for, about 1,500 families with MS. And the way that I go to bed at night is I don't leave anything on the table. And so if a family doesn't want to exercise, I mean, I can't make them, but I guarantee you that I talked to them about it.
Yep.
I guarantee you that I came up with some options that they could consider. And maybe today's not the day they start exercising. Maybe it's next week.
Sometimes people just need to hear it
Yeah.
over and over. And then one day they'll be ready. And I'll tell you what, when I do my shared medical visits at Stanford and I get a group of people together and I've been talking to this one by himself about exercise. I'm talking about that one about exercise. Oh no, somebody in the group says, hey, I started like doing a 30-minute walk every day and my fatigue is better. Oh, now everybody wants to do that. But I've been saying it for years. It's so powerful when it comes from a peer. And
100%.
this is why we need to create these communities where we heal each other, right? And
100%. You know, when I started, you go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, maybe we come from families where exercise isn't valued. And so, you may eat a certain way that doesn't serve your health, but if we can get into spaces together where we put health front and center and we normalize the behavior of eating vegetables, not eating sugar, it just becomes so much easier because habit change is already hard enough.
And if you have a peer group, and even if it's a constructed peer group, it makes that level easier.
Yeah.
You know, it's when I started my YouTube channel, I wanted to educate. So I was making videos to educate. What I never in a million years anticipated was that it would create a community. So there's a community of people who watch the videos and they comment, and it's taken on this life of its own. And I'll be honest with you, one of my joys, like a treat that I give myself, is at the end of my workday, I'll read the comments from my videos. And they're not always positive, but what I love is watching this community of people who don't otherwise necessarily have occasion to meet each other, support one another. And when I do these live streams, I've fallen in the habit of, I do a live stream once a month where I do like an Ask Me Anything MS. And one of my joys is the day after the live stream, reading through the chat, because I can't read it while I'm doing it, and listening to the discussions. Someone in Belgrade helping someone who is in Yugoslavia game out something, or someone in Georgia who is talking to some guy in Denver, and they don't know each other, but he said, hey, I found this one device and it was really helpful. And it's such a beautiful, unanticipated thing that I love. And I think it speaks to what you're saying, that when there's a community and you don't feel so alone and so weird and alienated, like you're the only person that has sexual dysfunction in your 30s, And
we always say, like, my spouse doesn't understand or my mom doesn't understand. Of course they don't understand. They don't have MS. Like, why would they understand? Do you understand cancer? You don't, right?
Or does a gentleman understand a menstrual cycle? Well, not really. I mean, I can explain to you the science, but I don't know what that's like, nor should I pretend that I can.
Yeah.
But I also think it's incumbent on the person living with the condition to help bring their family along and help educate them, right? I'm sure you're familiar. Years ago, there was this big survey done called Versus MS, which was, I think, 1,500 people impacted by MS and about half the number of care partners. And there were surveys, about how people felt and stuff. And the most striking thing to me was that 2/3 of all the people impacted by MS did not tell their spouse things because they were scared of scaring them. And 2/3 of the spouses or care partners were scared about their loved one's progression and wouldn't tell them because they were scared. And so imagine two people laying in bed together, two people who are intimate, laying in bed together, terrified of the same thing and not talking to one another about it. They're laying next to each other, like it's both scared.
Communication breakdown. Like, how can you connect, right?
And there's a unique opportunity for a you or for a me or for a care support group to open up an opportunity for that conversation. And sometimes I have the privilege of getting to watch it start. It's a beautiful miracle. It's almost brings tears to my eyes to watch two people who love each other discover that they love each other and they want to support each other, and they're scared of the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's after that point that magic starts to happen, because now you have a team and we're all aligned, and now we're really moving in the right direction.
See, I'm getting goosebumps listening to you because you're such an empathetic doctor. I mean,
That's
it's
nice.
hard, right? It's hard to stay empathetic for so many years when you take care of patients with sometimes really devastating diseases where, we can't reverse it. It's hard. So,
But and that's really nice of you to say, and I'm thank
well,
you.
it's the truth. I'm not
It's really,
making it up.
but at the end of the day, I don't know how else to be. Like, it's just, I mean, it's not like it's like, this is just, I'm asleep or I'm just doing the groove thing that I do, but it fills a bucket for me too. Let's be very honest. I gave up the fallacy that I wasn't an MS neurologist and that didn't define part of who I was a long time ago, because it is part of who I am, and that's okay. And my patients and the families that I get to help, they help me. I mean, they're part of my community. I didn't ask for that. Like when I started this YouTube channel, I love this community. I'm a member of the community, and it fills a bucket for me too. And like I said earlier, the way that I go to bed at night is I don't leave anything on the table. So I can't guarantee for a limited time only for $9.99 if you sign up now that you'll fly, but I can guarantee you that I will die trying.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes that's all we have. And that has to be enough because it's all I got.
Well, that's all we can realistically do, right? We're not magicians. We
Yeah.
can't, if I could wave the wand and make the MS go away, I sure would have done it for myself.
Yeah, like a long time ago, right? Harry Potter. Yeah. Wow.
Well, but what we can do is be allies in care and give good information. And what I'd really like to see, how we do the certification for comprehensive MS centers. I was really kind of going to the details. I was like, well, what do you have to have to be certified as a comprehensive MS center? And it's, it's all of the different allied healthcare professionals that are important in the care of MS. But what wasn't in there?
Yeah.
Like an integrative medicine person, like someone to take charge of doing the lifestyle bit. And when I say bit, like it's small, but it's actually big. And for me personally, it's been as important as anything that I've done with my neurologist.
Maybe in some respects, more important. In some respects, maybe. Let me throw out a challenge that I just thought of for the two of us that maybe we'll kick around. Imagine a world where MS Centers of Excellence can apply to participate in a course where they receive a certification in a holistic wellness MS approach, where they take a weekend. I'm making this up as I talk to you. There's a weekend course with you and me, and we take someone, a well-intended, wonderful allopath, and we help them learn how they can integrate, pun intended, a more diverse approach to what they offer, where we teach them, okay, so you're not smart about nutrition. That's okay. We'll teach you about nutrition. If you're going to talk about nutrition, doctor, here's the 4 things that we want you to know. These are the 4. You don't have to know a lot about nutrition. These are the 4 things. Mindfulness. You've never done mindfulness. You're a 50-year-old physician in the United States. You were not taught about mindfulness. We're going to teach you about mindfulness. We're going to practice mindfulness. I wonder, it's really stealing a page from a friend of mine, Elliot Froman, who saw fit to change the course of MS care delivery by trying to train neurologists. Mm-hmm. Maybe you and I need to do something like that, where we take an initiative and find like-minded people that would like to broaden their horizons.
Can I tell you the secret?
For us to keep around.
I was like, the secret is, that's actually why I reached out to you, because I was like, who's going to be my ally in this?
Pick me.
Do it.
Yeah.
Because you know what? We talk down physicians who don't do this work, right? Yeah. My doctor didn't care about nutrition, didn't talk to me about mindfulness. But guess what? When I got diagnosed as an anesthesiologist, I didn't know the first thing to do in the realm of lifestyle and health, because I never learned it. So it's not my fault, but I still have a responsibility to do better. And I initially was just trying to do it to help myself. But then I realized that, okay, we got to do this for people who are not getting the information. And so I have been wanting to figure out, like, how do we reach more neurologists? Like, what's it going to take?
Well, I think this should be the beginning of a conversation. So it's January 30th, 23. So you and I will reflect back, say, remember when we talked to January 30th back in 23? Boy, that was the beginning of something revolutionary, because it's been my experience that it doesn't take a lot of prodding or prompting to help a human being appreciate the value of fill in the blank, exercise, nutrition, mindfulness, clean eating. And that human being could be a clinician,
Mhm.
who can then help their patients and those families, or it could be someone who's just trying to live their best life. Through my own journey, I meditate every day. I have completely changed how I eat and shop. I fast. I've changed my life in part because of what I've learned from my MS patients, and in part because I'm trying to improve me.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't take a lot, in my opinion. This is a hypothesis, to help someone see the value.
Right.
And maybe that's what we should be doing, is we should help other clinicians see the value so they can in turn improve the lives of the people they take care of.
Let's do it. I mean, what could be more fulfilling than really meeting patients where they're at and really giving comprehensive MS care where we don't poo-poo the soft medicine. I always say to my patients, I go, I know a lot of people think this is soft medicine. I agree. I'm not like trying to throw powerful drugs in you,
Yeah.
but the things that I do are powerful. Like there's nothing in the realm of pharmaceuticals that rivals what good restorative sleep can do. Nothing.
Amen. Amen.
Fasting, and so on.
There is no combination of stimulant and sedative which overcomes not sleeping. Does not exist. Like, it's a great example that you give. Sometimes I'll tell people, this sounds like something that your mom would tell you, but guess what? Your mom was right. Like those kind of, they're actually like really, really accurate.
Yeah.
So when you start to apply, I love it when a family comes back and they say, oh my gosh, Dr. Boster, we cut out sugar, and within 3 weeks, and they start to talk about all the things. Yeah. And that's all I can do just to not giggle, because I've been telling them that for years, and they finally did it, and it's awesome.